We recently asked RCMP spokesperson Sergeant Christopher Manceau about the young man whose head was smashed into the ground.
Have you seen that video?
That one, no, you said it's from August 10th?
August 10th.
Okay, no, sorry, I haven't seen that one.
The sergeant said that every action was recorded on audio and video by the RCMP, including the use of body cameras. A spokesperson for the Rainforest Flying Squad said the body cams were hardly ever used at Fairy Creek. Manceau added that if people have complaints, they can take them to the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission, which is charged with looking into those matters. So far, more than 90 complaints have been filed with the commission, including one by this woman.
Excuse me, did you see that he's grabbed this man is grabbed my genitals.
We also asked Manceau what triggered the RCMP's pepper spraying of the blockaders.
From what I've been told, what led to that was that large group of people that weren't following direction after a member was knocked over and injured.
By a fellow officer, as you can see in this video.
Pepper spray was then used to disperse the crowd. That obviously worked. We were able to get that member out of that area.
If the raison d'etre for going ahead and using all of this spray, saturating the crowd with it, was to provide space to extricate this man, well, right. That's odd, because the man gets to his feet on his own.
He stands up less than a minute later.
And he walks off on his own. It's not like fellow officers are helping him out. So it's a bit confusing. Can you understand that?
I can understand that. Again, I can only go with what information is given to me, and I just don't have those details. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, doesn't really matter. One of our members was injured and needed to be extricated out of there.
Well, it matters, of course, to the people who were sprayed, because the reason given for the spraying was to disperse them so that this evacuation, this man could be medevac. And of course, that's clearly in question when viewers see him getting up and walking away, as they will.
In fact, the spraying of the forest defenders doesn't even begin for another 4 minutes, long after the man has disappeared, along with the stated reason for coating the blockaders with the excruciating spray.
Let's go. Roll those eyes around in that socket. Let's go.
This young man was lowered with a narrow rope tied tightly around his waist, which compressed his abdomen and internal organs.
I know that that 17-year-old who was removed from that one device with that small rope was offered a harness on several occasions, and he declined it.
We're talking about a juvenile.
Yep.
And a juvenile saying, I don't want a harness, but please put me in a thin rope and choke my guts.
Again, at the end of the day, I can't force that person to put that harness on them. Yes, we do have some equipment for removing some of these people from higher elevations. Unfortunately, the actions of the protesters, they're now digging trenches in certain circumstances where our equipment that we would normally use to access them is no longer safe, because now there's a trench with people in it that are down below that we can't access them.
But in this case, the juvenile was lowered from a boom lift. It was right there. But instead, he was roped up and removed painfully. This summer, there have been 3 BC Supreme Court rulings stating, in effect, that the RCMP's exclusion zones are unlawful because they keep the public and media from observing RCMP actions against the blockaders.
Well, exactly what happened.
In the most recent ruling, it was said that they need to be measured in meters, not kilometers. Why is that still being violated in the field? And I have personal experience with this.
Well, we've sought clarity from the court, and it's made very clear to us that the decision does not preclude the RCMP from implementing temporary exclusion zones or access control points around police while we enforce the court order and injunction. The commanders are in daily contact with their lawyers in order to make sure that those exclusion zones that are created are as small as possible.
Small? We and other journalists had to walk 7 kilometers uphill through an exclusion zone to reach an RCMP action. We paused at this memorial for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Kilometers later, we found a large contingent of RCMP officers and blockaders locked down on the road.
It's scary, putting my arm in this hole. It's scary, like hearing what the cops do to people here.
This blockader was not under arrest. Yet the land defender said RCMP officers took their sleeping bag and mat, blanket, and food.
It's one requirement that we have to provide water, we do.
But is it a requirement that you take food away?
Like I said, I don't know. I can't speak on that because I wasn't there if the food was taken away or not.
Well, let's get somebody over here who was, and let's ask them to see whether they'll say whether she had food taken away from her.
My pronouns are they, them.
They, them, I'm sorry.
Are you waiting for something?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to give me an answer if you're going to get somebody over here who did actually
Right now,
witness
I
that.
can't go there right now.
There have been numerous complaints by blockaders that officers don't display their names or badge numbers.
Up at Ferry Creek, members have been given the option. They can either wear their name badge, wear their badge number, or nothing at all.
So they have the option of not being identified by the very people whom they're enforcing the law against.
That's correct, yep.
The violence against land defenders sparked protests at RCMP detachments up and down Vancouver Island on August 23rd. In the BC capital of Victoria, more than 500 people showed up and spoke up.
They are hurting Indigenous youth and women, children, elderly, disabled. It doesn't seem to be a limit to the amount of people that they are assaulting, and they're stealing from people as well. They are doing very criminal-like actions. If any of us were pulling what they did, we would be in jail.
47 million viewers are now paying attention to this worldwide.
Do you think the international attention will make a difference in the government here and in Ottawa?
It will, because they'll shame the government here once and for all of how they're handling the RCMP and how they're handling law-abiding citizens.
The RCMP now own $1 billion stake in Timber West Forest Company. They are in conflict of interest. They have no business to be deciding what is right and wrong in the forest when they stand to gain from profiting from tearing down the forest.
The RCMP has been using chainsaws in an unsafe way, close to the heads of unprotected, nonviolent land defenders, and they have been using huge backhoes within inches of forest defenders that are, buried in the ground where they cannot move. Any one of those tactics could go desperately wrong in a moment, and somebody could be killed, beheaded, amputated.
Did you ever think you would see the videos of that nature?
Absolutely not. Not in Canada.
What does that make you feel about the institution itself, the RCMP?
Well, I certainly don't have the faith in them that I did have. In fact, I found it scary that that's behavior to which they will resort. I've always been super proud to be a Canadian and trusted in our institutions, and now that's all called into question in my mind.
The real people defending peace in this country are the people defending the natural world that sustains us all, because we don't have much time left to be protecting the very life support systems of this planet. And the thought that people who are doing that, young people, our children, are being treated the way they are on the front lines is absolutely unexcusable. And we will continue to push back against this wanton violence.
When you see these young people getting hammered like that, what's your gut check?
Well, that makes me cry, because we've told our kids forever to stand up for what they believe in, and now they're standing up for what they believe in, and they're being treated horribly, and that's just not right, is it? And they can't trust the politicians, and they can't trust the RCMP.
A week later, Indigenous youth led a protest that closed down the Johnson Street Bridge in Victoria.
People have been brutalized. They have been injured by being hit by heavy machinery. They have been brutalized through pepper spray and the threat of tasers and rubber bullets and tear gas.